Mississauga condo owners think they're just in a slump, but really they're in a trap. Selling, renting, or even just keeping the property, none of it makes financial sense right now. The math is broken. Here's what's actually happening. Mississauga condo investors, especially investors who bought between 2020 and 2022, they're stuck in a three-way trap. They can't sell for what they need to profit or break even. They can't rent it for a number that would cash flow or even be a monthly loss that they can stomach. And they can't afford to keep it the way things are going because the carrying costs are way too expensive. In this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what's causing this so you can run the real numbers and see what a typical Mississauga investor is actually dealing with, and then we're gonna talk through the options because there are some, so you can figure out what the right move is for your situation. I work with buyers and sellers in Mississauga and the Peel region. Every single week, I'm seeing the calls that are coming in from owners who thought they'd made a smart investment, and now they're running the numbers again and not liking what they see. This is what's sitting in my inbox right now. It's not a theory. Let me walk you through a real scenario. Somebody buys a 1+10 condo near Square One in late 2021. The market was absolutely on fire, and you were lucky if you could find anything for less than $680K. Everyone was buying. Fear of missing out was at an all-time high. They put 20% down on an investment property, roughly $136 grand out of pocket, and they bought when the interest rates were sitting at around 2%. Fast forward to today, February 2026, the same condo, the benchmark price for a Mississauga condo apartment has cratered to $510,000. That's a $170,000 drop from the peak. Not only has this unit lost value, it's wiped out the owner's entire $136,000 down payment and then some. But the equity isn't the only problem. The mortgage has come up for renewal at rates significantly higher than the 2% they started with. Monthly carrying costs have exploded because of the higher interest and the massive spike in maintenance fees across Peel region. And rents? Average rents in Mississauga right now for a 1+10 are sitting around $2,385 a month. That's down about 5 to 6% from where they were just a year ago. When you add it all up, this owner is now paying $4,100 a month to keep that unit and only bringing in $2,385. They're bleeding nearly $1,715 a month just to hold on to a losing asset. So you've got a scenario where your asset value is down, your carrying costs are up, and your rental income is down. Buyers are not exactly lining up at the door. And that's the three-way trap that we're talking about. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why dropping your price doesn't automatically fix this because of something called the qualification gap. So let's actually break down what's happening here because there are a few forces at work in Mississauga, and one of them almost nobody is talking about. Force number one, the market itself has softened and sellers are sitting in a sea of competition. Total residential listings in Mississauga in 2025 were up almost 15% to the year before. Sales transactions in the meantime dropped by 13%. Active listings at some points were the highest in over 15 years. For condos overall, across all sizes and layouts, the benchmark price was $587,600, down about 7% year over year. Units are sitting, buyers have options, and they know it. Force number two, interest rate renewals hitting investors exactly now. A lot of investors who bought resale in 2020 and 2021 had 5-year fixed terms. Those renewals are happening right now. On a $440,000 remaining mortgage, for example, the jump from 2 to 4% adds hundreds of dollars every month. That alone reshapes the entire investment math. But here's the force that most people aren't talking about, the hidden one, the Peel region factor. Starting in April 2024, Peel region changed how it bills for water and wastewater. We moved from a consumption-heavy model to a service delivery charge model. There's now a fixed infrastructure charge that hits every building, regardless of how much water it actually uses. For a large condo tower with hundreds of units, that fixed cost is significant. And here's what made it worse. A lot of condo boards across Mississauga didn't see it coming, and they didn't budget for it. So now they're playing catch up, which is exactly why you're seeing 10 to 15% fee hikes show up at annual general meetings out of nowhere. Stack that on top of what's been happening to building insurance. High-rise insurance premiums in Ontario have jumped by as much as 40% in some cases at renewal. Not 4%, 40%. That's not a rounding error, that's a budget crisis for a condo corporation, and it flows straight into your monthly fee with no cap, no limit, and no vote required. The result is what I'd call a fee death spiral in some of these older buildings. Fees go up to cover insurance. Fees go up to cover the water billing change. Fees go up because the reserve fund is underfunded and a major repair is coming. And suddenly, the unit that looked affordable on the listing price has a carrying cost that scares buyers away before they even book a showing. Let's now run the actual numbers because this is where the trap becomes real. Back to our investors. They bought a 1-bedroom near Square One in 2021 for $625,000 with 20% down, meaning a $500,000 mortgage at 2.5%, giving them a monthly payment of roughly $2,240. Maintenance fees at the time were about $500 and property taxes around $250, bringing the total monthly carrying cost to approximately $2,990. They rented it out for $2,500, not perfectly breaking even, but close enough to justify holding. Now, fast forward to today. The mortgage renews at 4% on roughly $460,000 remaining, bringing the new payment to around $2,420 a month. Maintenance fees have increased to about $620, and property taxes are closer to $275, which means the total monthly carrying cost is now roughly $3,315. Market rent for a 1+ den condo in Mississauga right now is about $2,385, with more competition from other landlords sitting on vacant units. That means they're now feeding the property roughly $930 every single month out of pocket. That's over $11,000 a year out of pocket on top of an asset that's worth less today than they paid for it. And here's the math that puts it in perspective. For that loss to break even, the property value would need to appreciate by at least 4% a year just to offset what they're spending to hold it. And right now, it's going in the other direction. So the question becomes, and I hear this constantly, should they just wait for the market to come back? The answer is maybe. But understand what waiting actually costs. First of all, multiply 950 by 24. That's $22,800 in real cash gone over 2 years before prices do anything, and that's if it takes only 2 years for prices to start coming back. That's not a paper loss. That's money that leaves the account every month. And there's absolutely no guarantee that even if they do begin to recover, that prices recover enough to make it back. Okay, and this is the part that most people miss completely. And this is why just dropping your price doesn't always fix the problem. Here's how it works. In 2021, a $1,000 monthly maintenance fee was rare in Mississauga. Today, in older buildings, it's becoming the norm. Some are already past that. When a bank qualifies a buyer for a mortgage, they don't just look at the purchase price. They look at total monthly housing costs. And in Canada, lenders include 50% of the condo fee when calculating debt service ratios. So here's what that actually means for you in dollars. A $1,200 a month maintenance fee doesn't just feel expensive. 50% of that fee, so $600, is counted in the buyer's debt service calculation. At today's rates, that $600 a month fee reduces the mortgage qualification by roughly $75,000 to $90,000. So even if you drop your asking price by $50,000, the building still can't qualify. the building's balance sheet is actually working against you. Think about what that means practically. You aren't just selling a kitchen and a view. You're selling the building's entire financial history, its reserve fund, its insurance costs, utility contracts. If those numbers are bad, your unit is harder to sell regardless of what you price it at. The buyer pool shrinks before anyone even looks at your listing. And this is why I keep saying buyers right now are acting like underwriters. I'm not joking about this. I see it more and more every day. They're pulling status certificates. They're looking at the reserve fund study. They're asking what the fee trajectory looks like over the next 5 years. They're not just falling in love with a unit and figuring the rest out. Those days are completely gone. Not every Mississauga condo owner is in this exact position, but a lot of people are closer to it than they think. These are the 3 groups that I see the most often. Group 1, the 2020 to 2022 buyers who bought at or near peak prices and are now looking at values that are below what they paid. Group 2, investors whose carrying costs have crept up quarter by quarter and who told themselves it was just temporary. That temporary phase is now going on 3 years with no real end in sight. Group 3, people who assume they had multiple exits. Sell if things go bad, rent if they can't sell, do short-term rentals as a backup. That last one got completely wiped out, by the way. Mississauga rules for short-term rentals have significantly tightened, and many buildings have banned it outright. What all 3 of those have in common, though, is that every exit they planned on is now harder and less predictable than it was at the time that they bought. All right, this is where I want to actually give you something useful, not just more bad news, because the answer is different depending on your situation, and most people are trying to make this decision without a framework. Question number 1 to ask is, can you actually afford to hold? Not theoretically, but actually. So take your monthly shortfall right now, multiply it by 24. That's what 2 years of waiting costs you in real dollars before prices do anything. Is that a number that you can absorb? For some people it is. For a lot of people, it's not. And they don't realize it until they've already spent the money. Question 2. What's your real timeline? If you genuinely have a 10-year horizon and the monthly bleed isn't impacting your life, Mississauga's long-term fundamentals are real. The Hurontario LRT coming online, population growth, proximity to Toronto. The case for holding long is there if you can afford the journey. But if your timeline is shorter, if you're nearing retirement, if this is costing you sleep and financial flexibility, that's a different calculation entirely. Question number 3, what are similar units actually selling for right now, and how long are they sitting on the market? Not listed, but sold. Look at your actual transactions in your building or nearby in the last 60 to 90 days. If everything is sitting 60, 70, 90 days, your unit won't be different unless it's priced right or showing better than everybody else. That's your real market, not the listing price that your neighbor is hoping for. So what do you actually do if you're in this position right now? Option 1, sell, but sell strategically. The number 1 mistake I see sellers make in this market is pricing based on what they paid, what they feel they want or need, or what the unit was worth 2 years ago. All of that is not the market. Buyers in Mississauga have the most inventory they've seen in 15 years. They're not in a rush. They will skip right past an overpriced listing. If you're going to sell, price it for today's market and make the unit show better than anything else at that price point. Staging, professional photos, floor plan, and video. In a market like this, presentation literally is the difference between 30 and 90 days on the market. And 90 days means price cuts, because the first question on every buyer's mind will be, what's wrong with it? Why hasn't it sold yet? Option number 2, restructure before you decide anything. Before you list, talk to your lender. Ask about refinancing options, payment deferrals, anything that buys you a bit of breathing room. This doesn't fix the underlying math, but it takes the panic out of the decision. A snap decision made under financial pressure is very rarely the correct one to make. Option number 3, if you're holding, be honest with yourself about the numbers. If holding genuinely makes sense for your timeline and finances, own that decision, but run the real numbers, not the optimistic ones. Use today's actual rent, not what you wish you could get. Model maintenance fees going up another 5% next year. Include the possibility, if you're in an older building, of a special assessment taking place. If it still works on all of those numbers, then you're working with a real decision. But if it only works if everything goes perfectly, that's not a real plan, that's just hope. Look, every situation is different. The numbers I walk through are based on real market data, but your unit, your mortgage, your carrying costs, your timeline, those are specific to you. If you want to actually run the math on your situation and figure out whether holding, renting, or selling makes the most sense, there's a link below to book a free call. We'll go through your specific numbers together. There's no sales pitch and there's no pressure in any of that. And if this video gave you some clarity on what's actually happening in the Mississauga condo market right now, watch this one next. But that's it for us for today. Until next time, take care.